For as long as there have been radio stations, there have been engineers. And for as long as there have been engineers, there have been coworkers wondering about this mystical place they're always hearing about called the tower site. The engineer goes there a lot, sometimes stays for days. Is this the name of some greasy spoon or local watering hole that caters to guys with pocket protectors? Well, there are many different kinds of towers. There's cell towers, AM radio towers, directional AM arrays, FM radio towers, and some that do several different jobs. This tour is of an FM radio tower or an FM tower site that serves several area radio stations, including one of ours and a spot where I have been spending a lot of time lately. The access to these tower sites vary greatly. This one is not so bad. It's also very common to see various forms of wildlife at these tower sites, and the occasional horse. And there's usually at least one gate, sometimes more. Here it is, the tower site, and all the cool stuff inside. As I mentioned earlier, this site houses the transmitting equipment for several radio stations in the area. This is an elementary tour of the actual site and the equipment for one of these radio stations. It takes 28,000 watts or 28 kilowatts to obtain the output for which the station is licensed. This particular arrangement uses two 14.5 kilowatt transmitters to achieve the licensed output of 28 kilowatts. The RF leaves both transmitters and is then sent to this switching and combining system. This combines the output of the two transmitters, and that energy is fed through this line to yet another combining system where the output of this station is combined with that of another radio station in the building. These two combined outputs are then sent through this large coax where it travels up the wall and leaves the building. Once outside the wall, it travels up to the antenna system at the very top of this tower. Those round or rectangular dish-shaped antennas, those are STL antennas. Those are the antennas that receive the audio from the various studio sites, providing audio for these radio stations. So the audio originates at the studio, leaves this little tower beside the studio building. The audio for our station is received here. The audio leaves this device and goes through the processor and the encoding equipment before it is sent to the exciter. The exciter is actually a small transmitter which drives these two main transmitters. A lot goes into making sure this tower stays in a vertical position through all kinds of wind and weather. There are actually 6 anchor points on the tower. There are 3 legs with 2 anchor points for each leg. We'll take a closer look at one of those. You can also see these pulleys and cables that are attached to the main guy wires near the ground. As I understand it, this works as a shock absorber of sorts to keep these guy wires from swaying violently during high winds. I have been spending a lot of time at this site lately, installing a new remote control system. This device allows us to monitor and control the transmitters here from anywhere, basically, using a computer, a phone, or smartphone. Also has sensors that allow us to monitor the temperature, humidity levels, sound and light levels within the building. Plus, I can turn the transmitter on and off or up and down while monitoring all of the telemetry. I have completed most of the connections on this system, but I'm still making a few final tweaks, and these are also adjustments that are commonly made when we make our weekly visits to these tower sites. You can see the output of the exciter doesn't match the output I am seeing on my remote control. So each channel has to be calibrated once in a while to ensure the readings I see when I remote in are actually telling me the truth. Now, both readings are the same. This site is also equipped with one of the biggest backup power plants I have ever seen. If the power fails, this switch panel senses that failure and throws a switch to crank up this bad boy. A turbocharged diesel engine bolted to a generator big enough to run this whole plant and everything in it. In the event of a prolonged power outage, we have a surplus of fuel on hand. This tank currently has nearly 4 feet of fuel inside. Another big job in a facility like this is keeping the place cool. The air or exhaust from these transmitters can range from 95 degrees to 195 degrees. We have 2 big units on this side, and then these wall-hanging units on the other. Of the 5 sites in this group, this is one of only 2 with running water and indoor plumbing. The only food and drink found at a tower site will look like this. As you can see, there's a lot going on, and it requires a little attention. Hopefully, the regular checkups and attention will keep everything running like it should till the next scheduled visit.